Hello, and welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about gunfighting the right way, with God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. While you're listening, don't forget to scroll down, like, subscribe, hit some stars. Today we're going to be talking about, let's call it a discipline, or you could say a skill or a practice that separates true gunfighters from rookies and wannabes. With that, I'll plug in the bio. If you want to skip it, skip around 3 minutes and 45 seconds after it starts. First and foremost, I am a servant of God, preacher, a fisher of men. God is number one in my life, and everything that I do in this podcast is no different, and I don't apologize for that. A little bit about me in the background. I grew up, I guess what you would consider a heathen. Didn't grow up a Christian, but I grew up in the southeastern United States, what most would consider very poor. Hunting and fishing and shooting. Joined the Marine Corps at 17, did a couple of combat tours in Iraq. After my combat tours in Iraq, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps under Mojave Viper. I also served in law enforcement for several years in LAPD. I worked patrol assignments and more specialized assignments, where by God's grace, He got me through some nasty places in this world of war zones and some of the nastiest streets in the country. Not because I am better, because God chose to have mercy on me and had a purpose for me, and I'm thankful for that. After my time in law enforcement, I was a private contractor for federal government, for a 3-letter government agency I won't specify, doing private contracting work. I'm very much involved in guns and gunfighting. I also served in the U.S. Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard. I should say my primary MOS is in both branches of the military or infantry, as of one sort or another. Specialized infantry in the Marine Corps and an MOS that no longer exists. I started competition shooting even before I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I won my first gold medal even before I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I've been blessed by God with the talents He's given me to win more shooting competitions than I can remember. I've won most of my competitions in rifle and pistol, but I've also competed in archery and shotgun and even muzzleloader, knife throwing, hatchet throwing. I've competed in all that. I've also been a professional big game hunter and guide. Like I said, I grew up hunting and fishing and shooting. I've done it to put meat on the table because I like to put food on the table with the talents God's given me. I don't apologize for that. I've done it as a professional hunter and guide. I've slain all manner of beast and guided for all manner of beast. Bear and wolf and elk and deer, mule deer, whitetail deer. I've slain ram and fallow deer and countless animals. And I don't apologize for that either. FBI certified firearms instructor, NRA, and a bunch of other 3-letter government agency certifications. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Psalm 144. I've been blessed to be the commander of a tactical team, an SRT, special response team, in a large metropolitan area, where our primary job was to stop active shooters. But again, first and foremost, I'm a servant of God, called by God to share the good news, preacher, a fisher of men. With that, we will roll into the day's topic. All right, so what's this discipline, this practice? It's testing your kit, testing your gear, actually running your gear. Now, this was not a new lesson, but it was a good reminder recently. You've been listening, you know my wife was looking for a good, smaller carry gun. She does a lot of running and hiking. She's right now already started the Arizona Trail, some 800 miles. She wanted a small compact gun that she would actually carry. and wouldn't get in the way within her size restraints, and she settled on the Glock 42. Probably not the one I would have chose, but I was proud of my wife. We went and tried a bunch of different guns, a couple of different guns in that size category. Did a whole other episode on that, my wife's journey, but she finally settled on the Glock 42 as a small compact carry gun for hiking on the trail, for running. Anyhow, we got it, and I was like, well, you better, I said something to the effect of, I don't remember my exact words, but you ought to test that out. Make sure you test that out before you go. And she's like, oh, it'll work fine. It's a new gun. And I was like, no, that's not true. Guns don't just work from the factory all the time. You have to make sure. And I was in the back of my mind thinking, yeah, it's a Glock. It's new. It's going to work fine. Well, it didn't. And it was the first 50 rounds I think she kept track of 6 malfunctions where the gun failed to fire at all. And if you looked at the back of the cases, very teeny minute primer indentations. Very light strikes on the primer. Well, I had dealt with that before. So I took apart the brand new gun, cleaned the firing pin channel. Now, I gave it a quick clean before I got it. I always clean new guns when you get them. Don't just go shoot them. Clean them first. But I gave it a quick clean, lubed all the major parts. But this time I broke it down and cleaned the firing pin channel and replaced the firing pin spring, even though it was new from the factory. We went out and tested it again, and it worked better. And we got 2 very, very good, high-end, expensive brands of ammunition for her premium carry ammunition. And with one, it was 100% reliable, and with another, it was 100% unreliable. Some of the cases look like you hit the back of them, metaphorically, with a sledgehammer instead of a firing pin. They were dented super deep. And the other brand new factory, very good brand, and super small indentations, that it happened 100% reliable with one and 100% unreliable with the other. And the only thing I could think of after that is the chamber was cut a little bit out of spec. So some ammo worked fine, and some ammo it wasn't getting the full reach of the primer. Wasn't getting struck fully with the firing pin. Anyway, it was a good reminder. You have to test your kit. This is not by far the first time this has happened. I have had this happen to me before, again with a Glock, brand new, with very good, very, very good reputation. Glock known for reliability. A very good ammo known for being very good premium ammo. And I assumed, hey, this is good ammo. It's in a Glock. It's going to work fine. Well, I tested it and it didn't work fine. This was, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. Very good premium defensive ammunition. I'm not just big on Glock. I don't talk about it a lot because it's not affiliated with this podcast, but this is not my full-time job. I work a well over 40 hours a week job as a general manager of a firearms training company. Just the other day, a young man went out and bought like a Performance Center, very premium Smith & Wesson. And Smith & Wesson's a good brand. Glock's a good brand. But a very premium gun, brand new. Didn't work. Didn't fire. Right from the brand new. I have had this happen to me with a Scar 17. When you think Scar 17, I mean, that's about as bulletproof a rifle as you can get. And my Scar 17 is an awesome, awesome gun. I bought a very nice drop-in, several $100 trigger from a very good company. It didn't work. I sent it back and got a whole other brand for several $100 for this drop-in trigger and several $100 for the second one. Scar stuff is not cheap. And I dropped that in. And not only did it not work, it went full auto. And not the good kind of full auto, like the uncontrollable kind of full auto. The unpredictable, uncontrollable kind of full auto. Horrible, horrible. Even though it was a drop-in part from the factory, a several $100 part, like a super premium part and a super premium rifle, didn't work together. I had to call the factory and get a lady on the phone who was super knowledgeable, and she helped walk me through it and how to fix it. But from the factory, it didn't work. It went full auto. You gotta test your kit. Know thy God. Know thyself, and know thy weapon. That doesn't even just mean knowing the specs of your super awesome Glock 75 because it's so advanced. I don't even have a model number for it yet. And your super bright million lumen surefire light and your green, blue, red laser combo, knowing all the specs. I mean knowing it, being intimate with it, spending time with it, knowing your weapon like the rifleman's creed that we learned in the Marine Corps. This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. There may be a literal million other weapons of that exact make and model. But if I took yours and gave you another one, you would know right away it wasn't yours. Not because you memorized the serial number, because you know it so intimately when you pick it up. You go, hey, this isn't my rifle, or hey, this isn't my handgun. You know there's a million like it, there's only one that's yours. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying know your weapon, know your kit, test your kit. I'm a big fan of training and going to training classes. I generally will go to at least 1 or 2 a year, even if that's just going back to a basic NRA class. I'm a basic NRA pistol instructor. You're never too good for the basics. The second you think you're too good for the basics, the fundamentals, you start to suck. For lack of a better term, you're never too good. A great shooter is one that masters the fundamentals and can do them consistently and quickly and on demand. Not somebody who's progressed past them. That's not a thing in my experience. You gotta test your kit. I could go on and on about stories about testing your kit, but I'm gonna give you some examples, some very clear examples. Like I said, been a professional gunfighter most of my adult life, and right now I general manager for a firearms and training company. I run into this stuff quite frequently. One common one is somebody will go in, buy a box of ammo, not care what kind it is, shoot it in their gun. Their gun works, and they load up defensive rounds of a different kind that they've never tested. Like, as a clear indication of my wife's Glock, it may work 100% with one kind of ammo and literally 0% with another kind of ammo, and it worked like 80% with another kind of ammo. And this literally just happened. Like, just because it works with the ammo you're practicing with at the range does not mean that it's going to work with your carry ammo. If you haven't tested your carry ammo in your gun, you are wrong. And I don't generally say that lightly. Like, there's a lot of opinion and everything in shooting in the shooting world and the product world, this brand versus that brand. But if you don't test your carry ammo, you are wrong. Yeah, carry ammo is expensive. What's your life worth? What's your wife's or your child's or the person standing next to you? What's their life worth? I recently ran quite a bit of Winchester Ranger T147s in the gun I started carrying because I'm switching to an optic and I wanted to get used to it. And right now I'm running a SIG M17 with a Trigicon. But I ran carry loads through it. One, I guess probably the most important is to make sure they actually work. Number two, and this is a big one, the number one criteria I have for my practice and my carry ammo is that they shoot the same point of aim, point of impact. It's great that my gun goes off, it goes bang, but the point of shooting is not a gun going bang, the point of shooting is hitting a target. If my carry ammo is not shooting the same place as my practice ammo, that is the wrong carry ammo. Example, one of my classic go-tos for carry ammo is Spear Gold Dot 147s and Spear Lawman training ammo 147s. They are designed to shoot in the same place. They're not the only ones that do this. I know that my training ammo and my carry ammo shoot in the same place. I test that. I try that out. I know that. It's not hypothetical. And if you don't know that, one, that your carry ammo works, and two, that it shoots in the same place, because you can drastically have a different point of aim, point of impact. Now, if you're practicing a draw from 3 yards, it might be academic, but if you're practicing a headshot, At 10 yards, it may not be academic. And at 25 yards, you may not even hit your target. Literally, they can be that different. Some guns like Glocks and most tilting barrel systems, Smith & Wesson M&Ps, most of the common guns are very ammo finicky as far as shooting point of aim, point of impact. Some guns like Berettas and the Beretta 92 family are very forgiving, though in my experience shoot almost all ammo in the same place. Smith & Wesson J-frames, which I love, are super ammo, not finicky as far as they won't fire. They'll fire, they just won't shoot same point of aim, point of impact. Like, I know that my J-frame is set up for 135 grain spear gold dots, and I know that it also really likes and shoots well the Winchester Train and Defend 38 Special 130 grain, which I have not been able to find in a long time I'm out of. I don't even know if they still make it. But I know that because I know my weapon. You have to test your gear, test your kit. You have to test your carry ammo. Don't just assume because it's super nice and it costs $3 a round that it's going to work in your gun. Except my wife got the 2 brands of defensive ammo, both like super premium, really good ammo brands. I don't want to mention them because I don't think it's the fault of the ammo. It's a fault with the gun. It was, I think, a chamber cut out of spec. But one 100% reliable. The other one, which I think was actually the more expensive one, both were quite expensive. One was 100% unreliable, did not fire at all. The other one was 100% reliable. She would not have known that if she had just shot practice ammo and then loaded up her carry ammo and went hiking. If she'd have loaded up the one that was 100% unreliable, she might as well have had a rock against a mountain lion or a bear or whatever she encounters in the wilderness. A park predator, whatever the case is. It was a good reminder. And I knew that. That's why I told her to do that. But in the back of my head, I thought, almost certainly, that gun would work. But it didn't. Almost certainly is not good enough if you're trusting your life to something. If it's just a range toy or something, if it's like a Target 22, that's one thing. But if you are going to trust your life or somebody else's life to something, test it. Is your life not worth that? Is it not worth the effort to test it and try it out? I have the same rule or a similar rule that ties into this. My general rule is if I'm going to trust my life to something, that gun had to have been out for 3 years without issue. If it had issues, and you start the years over again. That's my general rule. Now, it could be different if they just come out with a model that's like a different color or different sights or something, but like the functionality of the gun. I mean, when the 40 caliber Glocks came out, they had problems years ago. When the SIG, 365 came out, it had problems. Almost every major manufacturer at some point has a gun that has problems, and that's okay. That's, like I said, probably all major manufacturers have that. It's just a thing that happens. But don't let it happen to you. Don't trust your life to something that's unproven. Let it be around for a couple of years. If you're the guy that has to have the next latest, greatest thing, get it for what it is, a test and evaluation thing, but don't use it as your carry gun. Don't use it to trust your life to until it's been out and it's been proven. Let some dude on YouTube find out it doesn't work. Not you when you've got it on your hip and you need it. Let it be out for a couple of years, a few years before you decide to trust your life to it. Better to have the thing that works than the new latest, greatest thing that doesn't work. I learned that lesson. I've learned that lesson a few times. That's why I tell it to you, because I learned it firsthand. I really thought the Remington R51 was going to be a great gun. I liked the concept of resurrecting an older gun design. It was Remington. It was a cool gun. I thought it would be a good carry gun. I bought it. I shot it. It was horrible. I got rid of it. I kind of wish I'd kept it now with Remington going bankrupt, and I don't think that they're going to make any more of those. It would be cool as a collector piece, but certainly not good for a carry piece. I'll tell you another real common one, another real common mistake. You see somebody going out, sighting in their rifle for hunting, and they zero it, number one, on the bench, which is great. That you zero your rifle on a bench with a rest. That's great. Make sure that you take out the human error. Then they shoot 5 or 10 rounds and they get it hitting the center of the target. That, again, that's great. And then they might pack it up, or even worse, clean it, pack it up, and take it hunting, without realizing there can be a very dramatic shift between a cold bore shot and a warm barrel. That gun in my experience, very rarely will shoot in the same place from a cold bore and a warm sighted in barrel. So if you're sighting it in and you get it sighted in after 5 or 10 shots and you take it out hunting, you don't know where that gun's going to shoot. And in hunting, what's your most important shot? Hopefully your first shot, and hopefully that's the only one that you need. So after you sight your rifle in, let the barrel cool down, and then fire another shot and make sure. You may oftentimes find that your cold bore shot is not the same as when your barrel's warmed up. It'll get you close, like sight in your rifle like you normally do, shoot 5 or 10 rounds, get it centered, and then let your barrel cool and see where it shoots. And that's good data to have. Whatever you're doing, but especially in hunting, your first round hopefully is your most important round and hopefully the only one that you need. Don't count on that, but your first round should be your most important round. You should count on hitting with your first round. You ever heard somebody say, like, that's carrying a double action, single action, like, oh, my first round, just going to throw it, and then, my other rounds are good. Like, what? What is that? No, why are you carrying a gun where you can't hit with your first round? And I like double single actions, but you have to dedicate yourself to that slow, steady trigger press. Getting back to the hunting rifle and shooting off the bench, that's great. Get your rifle zeroed from a bench, but then test out your skill shooting standing offhand. Many, many, many times in hunting, people prepare for this 300, 400, 500 yard shot, and they have a nice, beautiful animal jump up 50 yards ahead of them, and they don't shoot because they only ever shoot off a bench or off a rest. Test what you're actually going to do. I don't know about you, but I don't hunt from sandbags. I don't hunt from a table and a chair. Now, some people do, and if that's what you do, that's fine, but that's not what I do, and if that's not what you do, that after your rifle is zeroed, you need to practice how you actually hunt. Snap shooting. Going from a ready position or a rifle slung position to a shooting position. Shooting from standing, shooting from kneeling, shooting from sitting, shooting from prone. Shooting unsupported, shooting with your day bag, shooting from your backpack, learning how to make a V with your fingers and your thumb on a tree and get a rest that way. Same in the tactical world, shooting from a barricade. You have to practice that stuff. A lot of that stuff and a lot of that the skills we just talked about, dry fire. Dry fire. Dry fire is great for your carry handgun. It's also great for your hunting rifle. Dry fire with that thing before you take it out hunting. Practice dry firing with that go-to hunting rifle. Practice the standing, the kneeling, the sitting. Practice on your bathroom door, pointing at a light switch, using, like I said, your hand to make a rest like you would on a tree. Real world shooting scenarios. Zeroing your rifle at a nice concrete bench with a nice chair and a lead sled is great. That's where you start, but that's probably not how you hunt. It's certainly not how I hunt. Test it, try it. Make sure that it's proven. All right, men, with that, I guess that'll wrap up the main topic. I know this episode may have been a little bit dry, but I think it's a lesson worthy of repeating, even if you know it. It's a good reminder. Like my wife's new carry gun was a good reminder for me and a good eye-opener for her. Just because something's new and a good brand does not mean that it's going to work. If you thought this knowledge or this reminder was worthy of the fraction of the cost of a box of ammo, you can go to goodshepherdtraining.com and go to the Patreon link and support. Anyway, if you have it in your heart to give, give. And if not, then don't feel guilty about it. Some pretty cool coffee cups on goodshepherdtraining.com. There's some really good metal coffee cups, which are good for men because you can cook on an open fire. You can cook stuff in them. You can use them to shave with. Actually did that this morning with mine. It's great. Also got what I designed as a shooting shirt on there. A very nice 100% cotton long sleeve shooting shirt. Great for when you're shooting steel targets and you get those little pieces of metal flying back, cutting you up. It helps with that, helps with sunburn, helps with windburn. Just good to have a nice lightweight long sleeve shirt. I find them pretty useful in shooting. Again, goodshepherdtraining.com. And if you don't want to support any of those ways, if you think this podcast is worth listening to, tell somebody about it. Again, like, subscribe, leave a review of the podcast. As a thanks for listening to the episode, I'll throw in a tactical tip. Obviously, the gun is important. Obviously, the ammo is important. Obviously, well, maybe less obviously, the holster is super important. And what people pay even less attention to is the belt. The belt is important. It's a system. It has to work together. Well, sometimes you have a good holster and sometimes you have a good belt, but they don't work well together. Sometimes your holster slides around on your belt. And there's a lot of different kinds of holsters and a lot of different kinds of attachments. But here's a tip that may help your setup. Taking a simple rubber band and putting it either on your belt or on the holster where you want it to stay. And that rubber friction, that little bit of extra tension, can keep that holster in place. For instance, my go-to carry holster right now, it was moving around a little bit on my belt. But I really like the holster, really like the belt. So there was a couple extra screw holes where it attached. So what I did was run a very small rubber cord that I had from some extra piece of tactical kit that I bought, magazine pouch or something. I ran that OD green, stretchy, basically rubber band cord through one screw hole, like 45-degree angle down to the other one, and it didn't really do anything except that rubber squished down on the belt when I clamped the holster on there and stops it from moving. Anyway, I thought a good tactical tip worthy of mentioning, those rubber bands sometimes where you want a little bit more tension, a little bit more friction to keep stuff in place. So we talked about gear failing a lot today. And it's important to remember that all mechanical things can, will, and do fail. Every mechanical thing eventually will fail, no matter what brand, no matter how good. Every one will eventually fail in certain things. So don't put your faith in things that are so transient. Put your faith in the only one true thing that never fails, that never lets down, that never disappoints. That one thing is God. With that, I'll throw in a tactical verse of the day. And for something even more important, your spiritual tactics, knowing some good Bible verses. So I'll throw in a tactical verse for this episode. For those of us who have been gunfighting a while, been warriors a while, I joined the Marine Corps in 2001. This is Caleb, one of the spies sent 45 years earlier to spy out the land God had chosen for his people. And behold, the Lord has kept me alive. And he said, these 45 years ever since the Lord spoke this word to Moses while in Israel, wandering in the wilderness. And now, here I am this day, 85 years old. As yet, I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me. Just as my strength was then, so now is my strength for war. Both for going out and for coming in. Now therefore give me this mountain. You'll find that in Joshua chapter 9. With that, guys, thanks for listening and have a blessed day.